Hi there folks, welcome to our video. Today I'm gonna talk about what we did to put our paver patio stones in, which we actually did a couple years ago, and I have some footage I never did anything with from parts of that process. But I wanted to just explain what we did 2 years in, after a couple winters, all the elements. It's looking really good. We haven't had any stones break. Some of the ones that were kind of wobbly at first, now they're, very well set in, and we love it. It's our little sanctuary here in the front of our house during the spring and summer months when things are blooming. When we moved in, our front yard was kind of some old concrete with a bunch of cracks in it and some old planter beds that didn't really look too good, and we had an underground oil tank which was still in use, so we wanted to get rid of that ASAP. So that was our first project, and getting that torn out of the front yard, that gave us kind of a blank slate to work with. So a few months later, my dad came out to visit, and we put in these planters and the paver stones, and it was a fun family togetherness project, and I learned a lot from working with my dad on that. So I'm just going to walk you through the steps we did and hope that it's helpful for you. So the first thing we did was we had to level the sand out, and we wanted to have a little bit of a slope so that any rainfall, snow melts and goes away from our house. And there was already a slope to the gravel somewhat, but we used a string with a leveler on it, and my dad and I would hold it from one corner to the bottom to make sure there was a slight downhill slope in any direction going away from the house. So once we had that done, we used a tamper to tamp down the gravel and make sure that it was packed in really well. Then we used a layer of weed barrier to help protect from any growth coming in through the cracks. Then we used just about a quarter inch of paver sand, and then the paver base on top of it, which is sort of like a thick black styrofoam, and that is a more economical way to go than doing a thicker layer of sand, which would have been a bigger process than using the paver base. I had to cut that in a few places to get it to fit in all the right corners, and then we laid the stones. We just finished laying our paver stones above Paver Base. It's kind of like a thick black styrofoam over a quarter inch of paver sand, half inch, and weed barrier beneath that.
Solid.
Once we had all the full-size stones on the ground, then there were the gaps around the edges that we had to fill in, so we were able to borrow a wet saw that we used to cut that. So we kind of held it to where it needed to be and used a crayon to mark where we wanted to cut it, and then we used the saw, safety gear, goggles, and gloves to cut the stones. Lining it up with the blade. Keeping this nice groove right here. Now let's see. Got some pebbles in the way. Beautiful.
All right.
So the final step, once all the pieces were in place, was to fill in the cracks with polymeric sand. And we only used one small bucket to cover our space. We actually waited a couple days to do that, to give the stones a little bit of time to kind of set and make sure that we were happy with how everything was settling in. So yeah, that's what we did, and it's still looking great. We love it, and the next step now is to fix these front stoop stairs, so stay tuned. We'll have to get on that video sometime in the next year, and we look forward to sharing that experience with you. Thanks so much. Please subscribe.